Welcome, gentle dreamers, to a nocturnal journey through time. Tonight, we venture into the shadows of history, where flickering candlelight reveals the raw, unvarnished truth of medieval life. Beyond the romanticized tales of knights and castles lies a world so challenging you'd find yourself desperately longing for your cozy modern bed after just one day. If you find comfort in these historical whispers, consider joining our sleeping community. Share in the comments your corner of the world and the time your eyelids grow heavy. There's something magical about knowing we're all drifting off together, separated by oceans, but united in dreams. Now settle in as we dim the lights and let the gentle hum of your fan become the distant echoes of medieval time. Close your eyes as we transport you to the year by 1325. Imagine awakening to a world where survival itself is your greatest achievement, and yes, where fleas are your constant companions. Your morning begins on a makeshift bed, a lumpy collection of musty straw that remembers its previous life as stable fodder. Modern comforts are centuries away. No memory foam cradles your body, no Egyptian cotton caresses your skin. Instead, you're wrapped in a wool blanket, unwashed since the previous winter, now bearing the weight of countless nights and untold stories. The church bells toll in the distance, nature's alarm clock amplified through stone and wood, marking another day in your humble existence. Your home is a testament to medieval simplicity, a single-room wooden dwelling where family life unfolds in all its unfiltered glory. Windows are an unnecessary luxury, and your roommates include not just your human family, but also the farm animals whose body heat helps ward off the bitter cold. The air carries a rich tapestry of medieval aromas, the earthiness of straw, the tang of fermented ale, the unmistakable presence of livestock, and that mysterious undertone that might be mold blooming in the corners of your world. As you stir, your body reminds you that even at the tender age of 22, you're already approaching what passes for middle age in these times. Your joints protest with every movement, each crack and pop a symphony of wear and tear that echoes through your wooden home. The simple act of leaving your bed becomes a careful negotiation with the elements. Will your feet meet the dampness of rain-soaked earth, or the crusty evidence of your farmyard companion? Privacy? Such a concept hasn't been invented yet. Your living space is a medieval open-plan arrangement, shared with parents, siblings, perhaps a few cousins who came to visit and simply never left. Every moment of your life is witnessed by someone, be they human, animal, or the ever-present insects that consider your home their kingdom. This is morning in medieval Europe, intimate, immediate, and inescapably communal. Having survived the first moments of consciousness, you face your next challenge, nature's call. Here in the 14th century, answering that call is an exercise in humility and improvisation. There are no porcelain thrones, no soft paper products, not even the most basic of modern sanitary conveniences. What awaits you is an adventure in primitive plumbing, where every trip is a reminder of how far human civilization has yet to progress. If you're a peasant, your morning ritual involves a humble wooden bucket behind the house. The pungent aroma wafting from it tells tales of Uncle Wolfgang's unfortunate encounter with questionable turnips. With practiced determination, you navigate this primitive facility, then participate in the daily tradition of waste disposal directly onto the streets below. A warning cry of Gardez-vous, derived from French meaning beware below, echoes through the narrow lanes, though rarely provides sufficient notice for unsuspecting passers-by. Medieval town streets serve as open sewers, creating malodorous rivers of human and animal waste. The fortunate townspeople might have access to public latrines, communal facilities, where privacy is but a distant dream. Here, shoulder to shoulder with neighbors, you conduct your business while engaging in reluctant small talk, trying desperately not to inhale too deeply. Personal hygiene, a concept yet to be invented. Without toilet paper, people make do with whatever nature provides: straw, leaves, moss, or if particularly fortunate, a scrap of wool. Some forego wiping altogether, perhaps explaining the general aversion to handshakes in medieval society. Castle dwellers enjoy marginally better facilities called garderobes, holes in the castle walls that empty directly into the moat. This architectural innovation, while clever, occasionally proves tactically unsound when enterprising enemies use these waste chutes as unconventional entry points during sieges. Thus, regardless of social status, medieval sanitation remains a humbling experience: cold, public, hazardous, and invariably unpleasant. One misstep on the slick stones could result in an uncomfortably close encounter with yesterday's discarded meals. Having survived this morning ordeal, thoughts turn to breakfast. But abandon all hopes of modern comfort food. This is medieval Europe, where culinary luxury remains centuries away. The day's first meal is a stark reminder of medieval simplicity. Forget your dreams of artisanal coffee and perfectly poached eggs. Your breakfast awaits in the form of a wooden bowl filled with something that resembles Earth's most humble offerings. Your daily sustenance comes in the form of pottage, a perpetually simmering stew that serves as both cooking method and preservation technique. This thick mixture of grains and root vegetables evolves daily as new ingredients join the ancient ones below. Accompanying this is a loaf of bread, so dense it might serve better as a weapon than nourishment. Crafted from coarse rye or barley flour, often supplemented with whatever edible matter can be found, sawdust, ground acorns, or other creative fillers, this is no ordinary bread. It demands respect and careful negotiation with each attempt to consume it. Imagine waking up thirsty in medieval times. No fresh juice or steaming coffee awaits you. Instead, your morning begins with a mug of weak ale. Strange as it may sound, this early morning beer ritual was a matter of survival. The water sources were so contaminated with parasites and waste that even children sipped this watered-down brew, nature's safeguard against waterborne illness. The ale was weak enough to keep you alert, but strong enough to kill what might kill you. Your breakfast table would seem alien to modern eyes. Forget about morning proteins or fresh dairy meat and cheese were rare luxuries reserved for holy days and special feasts, appearing maybe a handful of times throughout the year. Even the humblest spices were worth their weight in gold. A simple pinch of pepper would cost more than a month's labor. Salt was so precious it lived under lock and key. Your morning meal consisted of coarse bread and porridge, shared unwillingly with the occasional midnight rodent visitor. After this modest fare, you'd don your singular outfit, a rough wool tunic or linen shift that had been your constant companion for months, perhaps years. Fashion wasn't seasonal, it was eternal, or at least until your garments surrendered to decay or fungal invasion. The concept of underwear was a luxury, and many made do without, their skin greeting the harsh wool directly. Your clothes were sewn with more hope than skill, each stitch a testament to medieval ingenuity. Maintaining these precious garments was an ordeal in itself. Without modern conveniences, your clothes acquired a distinctive medieval bouquet, a complex blend of composting vegetation and farmyard aromatics. Washing was a rare and laborious ceremony, hauling water, heating it over fire, scrubbing with ash, soap being another luxury, and hoping for enough sunlight to dry your garments, a rare commodity in medieval skies. Your feet faced their own daily battles. If you were fortunate enough to own shoes, they were crude, leather affairs, offering all the support of a damp leaf. Most peasants traversed their world barefoot, navigating a treacherous landscape of mud, manure, and medieval debris. nature's obstacle course. Personal comfort was a foreign concept. Your skin hosted an unwanted menagerie of medieval life. Fleas, lice, and bedbugs claimed squatters' rights on your person. This universal experience united all social classes. From humble peasant to noble lord, everyone scratched. Your body became a living testament to medieval resilience, each itch a reminder of your place in history. Should your skin rebel with rashes or irritations, you faced them with stoic resignation. No soothing creams or medical consultations awaited you. These dermatological challenges became unwanted companions, marking the seasons of your life like persistent shadows. Dental care? A foreign concept. Your mouth was a battlefield where decay waged constant war against enamel, armed only with occasional twig chewing or vinegar rinses. By your mid-20s, your smile told stories of hardship, a graveyard of cavities and swollen gums. The wealthy weren't spared. Their access to imported sugar actually hastened their dental demise. Peasants' teeth deteriorated more slowly, worn down by coarse bread and hard living rather than sweet luxuries. Toothaches become your constant companions like shadows in medieval twilight. The pain is a relentless whisper that grows into a scream, driving even the most stoic souls to desperate measures. In these times, dental care is both primitive and terrifying. Your local barber surgeon doubles as a tooth puller, wielding iron hooks by flickering candlelight. With no anesthesia to dull the agony, a simple tooth infection could be your dance with death, as fever and sepsis lurk in every untreated wound. Such is the cruel irony of medieval life. What modern medicine treats with a simple prescription could write your final chapter in these darker times. Dawn breaks, and with it comes your daily burden. Like most souls in this age, you're a peasant tending land that belongs to a nameless lord. The sun becomes your timekeeper, its arc across the sky, measuring out your labor. Your companions, a wooden hoe worn smooth by generations of calloused hands, a rusty sickle that's seen better centuries, and whatever strength remains in your weary bones. 6 days of endless toil stretch before you, with Sunday offering respite only if harvest raiders or plague don't demand otherwise. The work carves itself into your very being. Fields demand ploughing, whether by hand or, if fortune smiles, with the aid of oxen. Your back bends and twists until it mirrors the curved tools you wield. For women, the burden multiplies. Beyond the back-breaking fieldwork lies an endless cycle of domestic duties. Children join this dance of survival early, their tiny hands gripping wooden rakes before they've known the luxury of play. Even those few souls who've escaped farming's grip find little comfort in their trades. Whether you're a blacksmith, breathing forge smoke, a tanner steeped in caustic chemicals, or a cooper crafting barrels, each day tests your endurance. Injuries? Keep working. Illness? Work harder. In medieval Europe, survival brooks no excuses. Miss a day's labor and you might find yourself replaced, another nameless face in the struggle against time and tide. Picture winter in medieval times, where nature herself becomes your greatest adversary. Your humble dwelling offers little sanctuary wooden walls riddled with gaps wide enough for curious chickens to peer through, windows draped with threadbare cloth that flutter helplessly against the bitter wind. The hearth, that ancient symbol of warmth and comfort, stands more as a cruel joke than salvation. Firewood, precious as gold, remains frustratingly out of reach, too costly to purchase, too dangerous to gather from the Lord's forests, where a misplaced step could cost you your life. As you huddle in your damp wool tunic, watching the last embers fade like dying stars, your body becomes a map of winter's conquest. Frozen nose, stiff fingers like icicles, feet perpetually embraced by cold and damp. What we now know as frostbite was then merely another thread in the tapestry of misfortune. Summer arrives not as a relief but as a different flavor of torment. Your home transforms into nature's own kiln, a testament to medieval architecture's complete disregard for human comfort. No gentle breeze offers respite, no cooling solutions exist beyond prayer, and the concept of personal freshness remains centuries away. The cruel comedy of medieval fashion demands full coverage despite the sweltering heat, modesty and social customs, creating a prison of fabric around your perspiring form. The air becomes thick with uninvited guests, persistent flies drawn to your unwashed existence, and the lingering aroma of last week's goat stew, while mosquitoes conduct their nightly symphony by your ears, competing with the cacophony of neighborhood life. In the fields, the sun reigns as a merciless overseer. Your only shield might be a crude straw hat, if you're resourceful enough to fashion one. The concept of heat exhaustion exists only as a bad turn, nature's way of reminding you of your mortality. Life becomes a pendulum swinging between winter's bite and summer's burn, your body perpetually caught in nature's crossfire. And still, the constants remain: itching clothes that seem to wage war against your skin, meals that challenge both palate and constitution, and the endless cycle of labor that waits for no season. Seeking relief in water? Nature has yet another dark jest prepared. That inviting stream, crystal clear and seemingly pure, harbors secrets that would make a modern health inspector faint. Upstream, the medieval world conducts its business, chamber pots emptied without ceremony, deceased livestock returning to nature, and an invisible army of microbes waiting to wage war on any who dare drink. Each sip becomes a game of chance, with odds that would make even the boldest gambler pause. In this dimly lit chapter of history, even the simple act of quenching one's thirst became a fascinating tale of survival. Picture this: a world where beer wasn't just a beverage, but a lifeline. Yes, even children sipped their way through the day, with small beer a watered-down brew that carried just enough alcohol to purify what might otherwise bring illness. Like ancient alchemists, brewers transformed dangerous water into liquid gold through the sacred art of boiling. For those whose purses jingled with coins, wine offered an escape, though perhaps at the cost of afternoon productivity. Now let us drift into the peculiar realm of medieval hygiene, where logic took peculiar turns. Imagine a world where cleanliness wasn't next to godliness, quite the opposite. Our ancestors, in their infinite wisdom, believed that bathing was an invitation to illness, as if soap and water were conspiring with diseases to breach the fortress of their unwashed bodies. That protective layer of grime? Consider it medieval armor, worn with reluctant pride. The rare bathhouses that dotted the landscape became more than mere places of cleansing. They transformed into social hubs where gossip flowed as freely as the questionable water. The church, ever vigilant, saw these establishments as dens of impropriety and promptly drew their curtains closed. For those brave souls who dared attempt private bathing, the process became an epic quest, hauling water from distant wells, coaxing reluctant fires to life, and praying that your wooden tub's leaks wouldn't drain away your hard-earned cleanliness before you could enjoy it. The rain that fell from medieval skies collected in open barrels, creating nature's own soup of feathers, insects, and mysterious floating gardens. Every drop of water held the potential for adventure, or misadventure, whether it touched your lips, blessed your crops, or graced your skin. One unfortunate sip could lead to days of intimate conversations with your straw mattress, contemplating the choices that led to this moment. As we cradle our crystal-clear glasses of purified water, let us pause to honor those who came before, who navigated this treacherous landscape of hydration with remarkable resilience. When illness inevitably struck, whether from water, weather, or wayward rocks shaped like destiny, medieval medicine awaited with open arms and questionable theories. In these shadowy times, healing was an art form blending gentle torture with theological musings. The medieval doctor's approach to illness was rather like trying to balance a four-way scale in the dark blood. Phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile dancing in an eternal quest for harmony, your body serving as their peculiar ballroom. Picture this: you're burning with fever, and the medieval doctor's eyes light up with certainty. Clearly your blood is rebelling, they'd proclaim, before introducing you to their faithful companions, a collection of eerily eager leeches and a blade that's seen better centuries. Yes, the same barber who trimmed your hair would now drain your life force into a bowl, turning a simple haircut into an impromptu blood donation. Feeling melancholy? The diagnosis would be swift: an excess of black bile naturally. The prescription? A delightful cocktail of laxatives followed by herbal purges, while your neighbors discreetly began planning for the worst. When it came to broken bones and wounds, medieval medicine took on an almost theatrical quality. Without the blessing of anesthesia, unconsciousness from pain became your best friend. Surgeons wielded unsterilized knives with dramatic flair, heating their tools over flames, not for sterilization, mind you, but for pure intimidation value. In this world where antibiotics were as distant as the stars and germ theory remained an undreamed dream, every ailment was blamed on either malevolent air or divine disapproval. That rumbling in your stomach? Clearly the result of impure thoughts, time for both confession and a thorough emptying of your innards. As your condition deteriorated, the medieval medical arsenal expanded. More leeches, because apparently the first round wasn't quite enough, crushed beetles for that extra touch of desperation, and a priest ready with last rites, just in case. Death itself was often viewed as nature's ultimate cure. If you somehow survived this medical gauntlet, the credit would be divided between divine intervention and your doctor's expertise, while the leeches received an honorary mention. After surviving this medical adventure, you'd stumble back to your humble abode, dreaming of comfort food. But even dinner in medieval times was an exercise in culinary roulette. Without refrigeration, preservation relied on salt, smoke, and winter's fickle mercy. Your meat, if fortune smiled upon you, would have been hanging in the open air for days, becoming an impromptu gathering spot for flies and entrepreneurial rats. Bread, that supposedly safe staple of medieval life, harbored its own dangers. During lean years, desperate bakers might bulk up their loaves with bark, sawdust, or clay, a medieval version of fiber supplements. The real terror lurked in rye season, when ergot fungus transformed innocent bread into a hallucinogenic hazard, capable of inducing convulsions, visions, and occasionally a permanent departure from this mortal coil. In the dim candlelight of medieval kitchens, vegetables dance through the seasons like fleeting guests. Turnips, the humble stars of peasant cuisine, appear in every imaginable form. Boiled until tender, mashed into submission, or swimming lazily in pottage, that eternal stew that seems to have been simmering since time immemorial. Nature's sweet offerings, the fruits of autumn, make brief appearances before succumbing to time's decay. Sugar, that precious crystalline treasure, remains a luxury of the wealthy, who wear their blackened teeth like badges of honor. The dairy dilemma presents itself daily. Fresh milk transforms from sustenance to poison within hours, while butter and cheese, though teeming with invisible life, offer safer sustenance. In this world of bland necessity, Spices are worth their weight in gold. Pepper, cinnamon, and nutmeg remain distant dreams for common folk who must find comfort in the sharp bite of onions and the blessing of salt when fortune smiles upon them. But food transcends mere sustenance. It's a complex dance of survival and politics, and the forest's bounty, from the smallest hare to the proudest stag, belongs to the Lord's table alone. Dare to hunt for your hungry children, and you might find yourself trading your freedom for a moment's meal. As you huddle over your bowl of grey stew in the gathering dusk, each spoonful carries the weight of both physical and spiritual consequence. In this twilight world, the Church's presence looms larger than the grandest cathedral. Like an ever-watchful guardian, it weaves itself through every moment of existence, from the first cry of birth to the final whispered prayer. Imagine living with a spiritual landlord who demands not just your gold, but your very soul as rent. The church bells mark time like heartbeats, their bronze voices calling the faithful to prayer with unyielding regularity. Sin lurks in every shadow, every thoughtless gesture. A missed bow becomes a spiritual debt. A forbidden morsel of meat on Friday weighs heavy on the conscience. Even dreams aren't safe from scrutiny. Hell isn't a distant concept, but a vivid reality painted in terrifying detail by priests who describe lakes of fire and demons with almost artistic enthusiasm. Latin, the sacred tongue, remains the exclusive language of the divine, leaving common folk to trust in their spiritual interpreters. When crops fail, it's not the weather to blame, it's your insufficient devotion. The Church's appetite extends beyond souls to temporal goods, the infamous tithe demanding its share of everything, from wheat sheaves to newly laid eggs. Holy days punctuate the calendar like stars in the night sky, but these aren't moments of joy. They're solemn occasions for fasting, confession, and contemplating one's unworthiness. Question these practices at your peril. The fate of heretics, witches, and blasphemers serves as a stark reminder of the price of doubt. And then there's the particular burden of being a medieval woman, a life scripted from birth, with all the freedom of a caged bird. Imagine playing life's hardest game with both hands tied behind your back. Your path is as narrow as a church spire. Marriage, motherhood, servitude, and an early grave. For most women, education remains as distant as the stars above. Unless blessed with noble birth and a convent shelter, your learning ends where household chores begin. Marriage comes with childhood's end. Betrothals at 12, motherhood by 14, love. That's a luxury saved for troubadours' songs. Marriage is a business transaction where your heart has no voice. Once the wedding bells fade, you become living property, your existence measured in heirs produced and meals prepared. Dare to voice discontent, and you might find yourself branded a witch, a title that comes with rather permanent consequences, be they by water or flame. In the dim candlelight of medieval chambers, childbirth cast long shadows of uncertainty. Like a game of chance where the stakes were life itself, women faced this trial without modern comforts. No gentle drugs to ease the pain, no pristine tools to aid the process. Skilled midwives, armed only with generations of wisdom and steady hands, stood as guardians between life and death. Yet even their expertise couldn't always prevent tragedy when complications arose. Those who survived multiple births were viewed with a mixture of awe and sympathy, for surviving meant only that the real work had begun, tending to a newborn while managing a household that never slept. A woman's path through medieval life was as narrow as a monastery corridor. Those who walked alone faced whispers and suspicion. Widows carried their grief like a visible mark, while those who dared to speak their minds or heal with herbs found themselves dancing on the edge of dangerous accusations. The medieval world had little patience for women who colored outside the carefully drawn lines of propriety. Behind convent walls, even the holy sisters lived lives bound by silence and submission. Their prayers echoed in stone chambers where every moment was measured, every word weighed. In this world of strict hierarchies, a woman's worth was measured not by her wisdom, but by her willingness to bend, to accept, to endure, to suffer with such grace that her pain became almost invisible. Life's hardships came dressed in many forms. Hunger that gnawed at empty bellies, social structures rigid as castle walls, and yes, even the occasional obstinate goat. But perhaps the most chilling aspect of medieval life was its casual relationship with violence. Picture a world where justice wore a sword instead of a blindfold, where order meant whatever pleased the local lord. Violence wasn't just an occasional visitor. It lived in every street, every home, lurking even in the shadows of sacred places. Justice, when it came, was swift and merciless. The punishment for theft might cost you your hand. A loose tongue could be silenced with iron and steel. The infamous scold's bridle, a cruel marriage of metal and shame, waited for those deemed too free with their words. And for the gravest accusations? Trial by ordeal stood ready, turning justice into a macabre theatre where innocence was measured in scars and survival. Imagine, if you will, the medieval trial by ordeal, a haunting dance between life and death. Picture yourself reaching into a cauldron of angry, bubbling water, your fingers searching for that cold stone at the bottom. The crowd holds its breath. 3 days of waiting follow where your fate hangs by a thread of healing flesh. Should your wounds mend cleanly, the heavens smile upon your innocence. Should infection set in, guilt marks you like a brand. Or perhaps you face the water ordeal, where the very elements themselves become judge and jury. The cruel irony? Sink to prove your innocence, though the depths may claim you. Float and face conviction for the very breath that keeps you alive. The medieval spectacle of justice turned death into theatre. Town squares transformed into arenas of grim entertainment, where executions drew crowds like moths to flame. Vendors wove through the masses, hawking treats as if at a festival, while souls departed their mortal shells above. The shadow of violence loomed everywhere, from the quiet corners of homes where discipline meant terror, to the bustling streets where a misplaced glance at a nobleman's steed could earn you a beating. War wasn't just an occasional visitor. It was the persistent drumbeat of medieval life. Whether sparked by land disputes, family feuds, or holy crusades, conflict simmered eternally. Knights and soldiers marched endlessly, their armor glinting with purpose, whether divine or mundane. Violence wasn't merely present in society, it was the mortar that held its stones together. In this world of shadows and steel, wisdom meant keeping your head down and your guard up. Trust was a luxury few could afford. For even the most mundane disagreement, a wandering pig, a misplaced tool, could erupt into bloodshed. Life balanced on a knife's edge, with justice swaying like a weather vane in the wind. Time itself seemed to move differently then. Reaching 40 summers marked you as ancient, a living legend who had somehow outwitted death's persistent grasp. They called such rare souls the Old Ones, not in jest, but in genuine wonder. Life's candle burned briefly, with most flames extinguished between 30 and 40 years. The youngest suffered most cruelly. Half of all children never saw their 5th birthday, claimed by disease, hunger, or winter's bitter embrace. Those fortunate enough to reach adulthood carried the weight of their survival like armor. Work began with first steps, and by 25, bodies bore the marks of their labor. Joints protesting like rusty hinges, teeth scattered like fallen soldiers, fingers lost to time and toil. For women, the battlefield lay in childbirth, a lonely war fought with only prayers and gentle hands as allies, where too often new life came at the cost of another. Picture the daily dance with mortality that medieval men faced. Fields became battlegrounds, where a misplaced scythe could spell disaster, while the smallest cut could blossom into a deadly infection. The tavern's warmth offered brief respite, though brawls could turn deadly, and failed crusades left villages bereft of fathers and sons. A simple journey to market became a game of chance. Would today bring an encounter with a bored bandit or an overzealous tax collector? Death wore many masks in these times, from the silent sweep of plague that transformed vibrant cities into ghost towns overnight, to the creeping horror of famine that slowly emptied village after village. Sometimes, fate had a cruel sense of humor. Imagine consuming tainted grain and spending your final moments in a terrifying dance with hallucinations, your screams echoing off stone walls. As for your final farewell, consider yourself blessed if you received one. Bodies were hustled into the earth with urgent haste, no time for elaborate ceremonies or polished caskets. Just a shallow grave, whispered prayers, and a humble mound of soil in whatever space remained in the crowded churchyard. Medieval life was an unrelenting siege, where death walked openly through every street and shadow. The concept of retirement didn't exist. You simply faded from life's tapestry, like a thread snapped mid-weave. Drift deeper into this medieval reverie. Your day begins in squalor, your morning ritual a symphony of discomfort, relieving yourself into a wooden bucket, attempting to freshen your breath with nothing but hope. Your stomach a hollow drum of hunger. Your body aches from sunrise to sunset, the rough wool of your clothing an endless torment against your skin. Each moment is a prayer against plague, each step a careful dance to avoid the executioner's notice. Even something as innocent as keeping a pet squirrel could mark you for death. Welcome to another day in medieval Europe, where every sunrise brings new challenges to survive. Has the romantic notion of knighthood captured your dreams? Let those illusions gently fade away. The medieval world we've inherited from storybooks, with its gallant knights, fairy tale princesses in towers, heroic quests, and grand feasts in torch-lit halls, is but a sweet fiction, polished smooth by centuries of storytelling. Reality wore a grimmer face, a world of stark contrasts and cruel certainties. The social ladder was more like a stone wall. Born among the poor, you remained there, your fate sealed at birth. Even those blessed with noble birth found their golden cradle offered little protection from life's harsh truths. A fortunate birth might grant you better odds of survival, but even the wealthiest nobles were just one bowl of spoiled soup away from a swift and undignified end. Those imposing stone castles, they were more like magnificent prisons, their halls echoing with draughts, their corners alive with vermin, their grand chambers witness to loveless political marriages. True, you might wrap yourself in fur and sip wine from silver, but death still lurked in every shadow, whether from a petty skirmish or a seemingly harmless splinter turned septic. These weren't the simple times of folklore, they were relentlessly complex, where every action carried weight, every decision bore consequences. The mundane tasks of daily life became epic struggles, each sunrise bringing new challenges to overcome. And in those rare moments of peace, when your mind dared to wander toward dreams of something more, reality's cold grip would quickly remind you of your place. There were no ladders to climb, no medicines to ease your suffering, no vast network of knowledge at your fingertips to answer life's burning questions. Your world was measured in footsteps from your birthplace, your story confined to the same few miles of earth where you would eventually rest. Yet amidst this harsh tapestry of medieval life, something remarkable emerged: the indomitable human spirit. People didn't just survive, they wove moments of joy into their daily struggles. They shared stories by candlelight, found love in humble cottages, and created beauty through song and dance. Not because their lives were easy, but because resilience is woven into our very nature. Even in history's darkest corners, humanity's light refused to be extinguished. As you rest tonight in your comfortable bed, surrounded by modern luxuries, clean water at your fingertips, medicine in your cabinet, and warmth at the touch of a button, remember those who came before. Our ancestors who battled plague, hunger, and tyranny didn't just survive, they laid the foundation for the comforts we now take for granted. Now let us drift into the tale of a remarkable woman who would reshape history. Before she became Catherine the Great, before she ruled an empire, she was simply Sophie, a German princess, born into modest nobility in 1729. Her family, his duchy in Pomerania, was small, their influence limited. But Sophie possessed something far more valuable than titles or land: an extraordinary mind, magnetic charisma, and an unwavering determination that would alter the course of history. Her childhood was a masterclass in survival. Under the calculating gaze of her mother Johanna, a status-obsessed social climber, and the distant shadow of her Prussian officer father, Sophie learned early to navigate treacherous waters. She transformed herself into a keen observer, devouring books in multiple languages and mastering the art of reading rooms before speaking skills that would prove invaluable in the dangerous game of imperial politics. Fate's wheel turned when Russian Empress Elizabeth Petrovna sought a bride for her heir, Grand Duke Peter. The Empress's gaze fell beyond Russia's borders, believing a foreign bride would prove more malleable. Sophie seemed perfect, well-born, Lutheran, though that would soon change, and possessing a carefully cultivated air of gentle submission. Little did they know the quiet strength that lay beneath that diplomatic smile. At just 14, Sophie embarked on a journey that would transform both her life and Russia itself. She arrived in St. Petersburg in 1744, shivering in her German clothes, a chess piece moved by her mother's ambitions. But Sophie had grander designs. Her conversion to Orthodox Christianity, taking the name Ekaterina Alexeyevna, Catherine, was more than mere ceremony. It was her first bold move in a grand strategy. As she stood there in her fur-trimmed coat, none could have foreseen how this seemingly dutiful girl would rise to become an empire's greatest ruler. From her first steps in the Russian court, Sophie, now Catherine, revealed herself as a master strategist, not content to remain a mere pawn in others' games. Her marriage to Grand Duke Peter meant to secure her position, instead highlighted the vast gulf between them. Peter, the heir to Russia's throne, proved to be no fairy tale prince. Childish and obsessed with military toys, he preferred playing at war in his chambers to the real work of governance or the attention of his new wife. Their marriage remained unconsummated for years, while Peter's devotion to Frederick the Great of Prussia and disdain for his adopted Russian homeland created a dangerous divide. While Peter shunned his adopted homeland, Catherine wove herself into Russia's tapestry with mesmerizing determination. Like a patient spider spinning her web, she mastered the language until it flowed like honey from her lips, absorbed history until it coursed through her veins, and practiced orthodox rituals until they became her second nature. This wasn't mere adaptation, it was metamorphosis. The Russian court, a labyrinth of whispered secrets and gilded dangers, watched her every breath. Her letters passed through prying eyes, her friendships were dissected like specimens, and her footsteps echoed through corridors of suspicion. Even her own mother, still pulling strings from afar, couldn't be trusted. In this glittering snake pit, where today's confidant could become tomorrow's betrayer, Catherine learned to dance with shadows. In the soft candlelight of her private chambers, she found solace in the revolutionary words of Voltaire and Montesquieu. While the court saw only a young consort, behind her careful smile bloomed a vision of Russia reborn, strong, educated, enlightened. Yet one obstacle stood in her path, her own husband, Peter, whose grip on power felt like shackles around her ambitions. Like a chess master, she waited, watching the pieces align. The year 1762 arrived like thunder after a long storm. Empress Elizabeth's death placed the crown on Peter III's head, but his reign crumbled like autumn leaves. In mere months, he managed to wound every pillar of Russian power. The church winced at his mockery, the nobility bristled at his insults, the army seethed at his praise of Prussia. When he openly contemplated divorcing Catherine for his mistress, the last threads of loyalty snapped. Catherine's moment came like lightning. While Peter lounged at his summer palace, she swept through St. Petersburg like an avenging angel, resplendent in imperial regalia. With her loyal military officers, including her devoted Gregory Orlov and his brothers, she claimed the throne in a bloodless revolution. The imperial guard knelt before her, and Peter, finding himself suddenly alone, surrendered like a forgotten chess piece. His mysterious death shortly after, officially from hemorrhoidal colic, unofficially by darker means, sealed Catherine's victory. And so she rose, this foreign-born woman, to grasp Russia's crown through sheer force of will and wit. No battle cry announced her ascension, no bloodline justified her rule, only raw determination and calculated courage. But claiming power was merely the opening move in a far grander game. Could she transform her bold coup into lasting authority? Would Russia embrace this German-born empress? As whispers of rebellion and doubt swirled through palace halls, Catherine knew that power won through cunning must be maintained through vision. And so began her metamorphosis from careful conspirator to enlightened ruler, a woman who would not just wear the crown, but reshape it, leaving an indelible mark on both Russia and history itself. With the crown now firmly in her grasp, Catherine could have settled into a life of luxury and complacency. Instead, she dreamed bigger, her mind filled with visions of a transformed Russia. Like a master weaver, she sought to create a new tapestry of her nation, threading together not just military might and political power, but the golden strands of intellectual enlightenment. While her husband Peter had found joy in toy soldiers and German military drills, Catherine's heart danced with the revolutionary ideas of Voltaire, Diderot, and the great minds of the Enlightenment. In her quiet moments, she imagined a Russia guided by reason, lifted by progress, illuminated by education, even as she wielded absolute power with unwavering authority. Catherine didn't merely admire Enlightenment philosophy from afar, she embraced it like a lover. Her 15-year correspondence with Voltaire reads like an intellectual romance, her letters both flattering and fiercely defensive of her autocratic rule. When Diderot's fortunes faltered, she didn't just offer sympathy, she purchased his entire library, transforming his words into her weapons of change. In the hushed sanctuary of her study, she immersed herself in legal texts, her mind crafting reforms that would reshape an empire. The early years of her reign flowed with the ambitious energy of youth. The Legislative Commission of 1767 wasn't just another bureaucratic exercise. It was Catherine's dream of rewriting Russia's legal soul. Her nakaz, seemingly a simple instruction manual, concealed a revolutionary manifesto within its pages. It whispered of radical ideas, equality before the law, mercy instead of torture, rulers serving their people. In the context of 18th century Russia, these words were as dangerous as drawn swords. But dreams had to dance with reality in Catherine's Russia, a vast wilderness of feudal traditions where noble families clutched their power over serfs like precious jewels. Catherine, ever the pragmatist, moved like a tightrope walker between progress and stability. She quietly abolished certain forms of torture, planted seeds of knowledge through new schools and libraries, yet carefully maintained the nobility's iron grip on their serfs. This was Catherine's delicate ballet. Philosopher queen by day, practical empress by night, forever balancing between the enlightened dreams of Paris and Moscow's harsh political realities. Her vision for Russia burned bright but controlled, like a carefully tended flame. She wasn't trying to turn Russia into a pale copy of Europe. She was forging something uniquely Russian, modern, yet distinctly her own. With one hand offering gentle reforms and the other wielding iron authority, she shaped her empire. Not content with internal changes alone, Catherine's ambition spilled beyond Russia's borders, determined to craft an empire that would command both fear and admiration. Where Peter the Great had merely opened a window to the west, Catherine was determined to tear down entire walls. Under her watchful eye, Russia's borders stretched like a growing shadow across the map. Her wars weren't merely about conquest, they were about reshaping Europe's very soul. The Ottoman campaigns of the 1760s and 1770s painted her as more than just a warrior queen. She became a liberator of Orthodox Christians, a protector of Eastern Europe, a force that could no longer be ignored by the great powers of the world. Like a master strategist moving pieces across a vast chessboard, Catherine's military genius unfolded through her trusted generals. Under the brilliant command of Alexander Suvorov and her close confidant Grigory Potemkin, Russia's armies swept across landscapes that had long eluded previous rulers. The jewel in this imperial crown was Crimea, a strategic masterpiece that finally gave Russia its coveted warm water ports along the Black Sea's northern shore. Each victory wasn't merely conquest, it was like adding another gleaming star to Russia's celestial crown, transforming it from Europe's mysterious eastern neighbor into an undeniable continental powerhouse. Westward, Catherine's diplomatic dance proved equally masterful. Like a spider weaving an intricate web, she orchestrated Poland's partition alongside Austria and Prussia. By 1795, the once mighty Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth had vanished from maps, its territories absorbed into Russia's expanding embrace. Yet Catherine's empire-building went beyond mere military might. She was crafting a cultural tapestry. New cities bloomed like spring flowers across the landscape, trade routes carved paths through wilderness, and German settlers brought their agricultural expertise to virgin Russian soil. From the frost-kissed Baltic to the sun-warmed Black Sea shores, her empire became a living mosaic of peoples and traditions. Some whispered that she was consumed by power, drunk on imperial ambition. But to Catherine, expansion wasn't just about drawing new lines on maps, it was about destiny. She envisioned Russia not as just another kingdom, but as a beacon of civilization, an empire that commanded both fear and admiration, that stood shoulder to shoulder with Europe's greatest powers. Yet beyond the grand halls of power, Catherine's private life sparked endless fascination. Her romantic entanglements weren't mere dalliances, they were carefully orchestrated partnerships. Like collecting precious gems, she surrounded herself with lovers who were young, handsome, and often politically astute. These weren't hidden affairs in shadowy corners. She rewarded loyal paramours with titles and estates, while gracefully dismissing those who fell from favor. Among this constellation of lovers, one star shone brightest, Grigory Potemkin. Their relationship transcended mere romance, becoming a powerful fusion of hearts and minds. Some whispered of a secret marriage, but what's certain is their partnership reshaped Russia itself. Together they planned military triumphs and dreamed of new cities rising from wilderness. Yet Europe's gossip mongers couldn't see past the scandal, painting Catherine as a woman of insatiable appetites. After her death, enemies even fabricated grotesque tales to tarnish her memory. But perhaps what truly scandalized them was simpler. Here was a woman who dared to rule not just an empire, but her own heart. In an age when queens were expected to be either saints or martyrs, Catherine chose to be gloriously, unapologetically human, and that made her revolutionary. In the chambers of power, Catherine's approach to love and leadership defied convention. While whispers of scandal echoed through European courts, she viewed matters of the heart with philosophical wisdom. Like a master painter selecting colors for her canvas, she chose companions who brought both warmth to her private hours and strength to her reign. These weren't mere dalliances, they were carefully orchestrated partnerships, each serving both heart and crown. When their usefulness waned, she bid them farewell with graceful generosity, turning even endings into diplomatic triumphs. But beneath this tapestry of carefully managed relationships, storm clouds gathered. In 1773, like thunder breaking through a peaceful sky, emerged Yemelyan Pugachev, a Cossack whose audacious claim to be the murdered Peter III sent tremors through the empire. For the weary serfs and restless peasants, his words fell like rain on parched earth. He wasn't just offering change, he was promising salvation, freedom from serfdom, lighter taxes, land for the common folk. His promises spread like wildfire across the Volga, igniting hope in hearts long crushed by noble boots. As towns fell and nobles met violent ends, Catherine faced her darkest hour. This was a distant war fought with diplomacy and cavalry charges. This was her own people rising against her carefully constructed world. Yet even as the empire trembled, she remained unshaken. With the cold precision of a chess master, she deployed her forces, crushing the rebellion with ruthless efficiency. Pugachev's final moments in an iron cage served as a grim warning written in blood. Defiance would not be tolerated. In the rebellion's wake, Catherine's dreams of enlightened reform withered like autumn leaves. The woman who once danced with revolutionary ideas now waltzed with reality. She tightened her embrace of the nobility, trading serf freedom for aristocratic loyalty. The philosopher queen who once quoted Voltaire now spoke the language of power and control. Though Pugachev's head rolled in Moscow's square, his ghost whispered an uncomfortable truth. No empire built on inequality could sleep peacefully forever. As twilight settled over Catherine's remarkable reign, she had guided Russia's destiny for more than 30 years, an unprecedented tenure for any woman to rule this vast empire. Like a master artist completing her magnum opus, she had painted bold strokes across history's canvas, forever changing what was possible for both women and rulers. Under her watchful eye, Russia transformed from a sleeping giant into a formidable European force. With each calculated move, she expanded her empire by over 200,000 square miles, carefully weaving Crimea, portions of Poland, and the precious Black Sea coastline into Russia's tapestry. These weren't mere conquests, they were the careful placement of stones in a grand mosaic of power. But Catherine's true artistry lay beyond territorial gains. Like a Renaissance patron, she breathed cultural life into Russia's soul. The Hermitage Museum rose under her guidance, housing treasures that rivaled Europe's finest collections. Her court sparkled with intellectual discourse as she corresponded with the brightest minds of the Enlightenment. In a land often dismissed as primitive by Western eyes, she cultivated gardens of knowledge, establishing schools for young women, nurturing the seeds of literature through printing, and even standing as a beacon of scientific progress by publicly embracing smallpox inoculation, her courage inspiring a nation. Yet every masterpiece has its shadows. While she danced with enlightened ideals, the chains of serfdom grew heavier under her reign. Her reforms, though impressive, were like delicate frost patterns on a window, beautiful but superficial, never truly reaching the depths of Russia's foundations. Still, her reign flowed like a mighty river, carrying Russia forward with unstoppable momentum. She understood that true power wasn't a birthright but a craft, demanding constant attention and skilled navigation. Through sheer force of will, political acumen, and calculated strategy, she steered her empire through treacherous waters. History would paint her with many brushes: usurper, tyrant, reformer, seductress. But none could deny her effectiveness. As the sun set on her reign in 1796, Russia stood taller, wealthier, and more formidable than ever before. Like a master storyteller, she wove her own legend into Russia's tapestry. Catherine didn't merely wear the crown, she redefined its very meaning through intelligence, strategy, and an unwavering grip on destiny. In doing so, she transcended the role of empress to become something more ethereal, a legend that would echo through centuries. Behind the gilded portraits and imperial proclamations lay perhaps her greatest achievement, surviving and thriving as a woman in a man's world, reshaping it by force of will alone. She carried the weight of constant precarity, a foreigner who seized her throne through cunning, a woman ruling an empire that balked at female authority. Yet, like a phoenix, she didn't merely endure, she soared, transforming both herself and her adopted homeland in ways that would ripple through centuries. Like a tireless scholar in her candle-lit study, Catherine was far more than a figurehead on a gilded throne. Her quill scratched across parchment deep into the night as she devoured books, penned endless correspondence, and shaped policy with careful words. Each dawn brought a new tide of duties, poring over diplomatic dispatches, orchestrating responses to foreign powers, meticulously editing state documents, all while navigating the treacherous waters of a court where allegiances shifted like shadows. Yet in the quiet moments between affairs of state, loneliness crept in like winter frost. Though surrounded by an ever-shifting constellation of courtiers, lovers, and creative minds, she confided in her memoirs that true confidants were as rare as summer snow in Russia. Her own son, Paul, grew to become her greatest worry, a man she deliberately kept from power, fearing he would unravel her life's work like a poorly woven tapestry. Even her deepest bond with Grigory Potemkin, once blazing like a midsummer fire, cooled to embers of friendship. His death in 1791 left an autumn chill in her heart that no amount of imperial warmth could thaw. With the precision of a master painter, Catherine crafted her public image on history's canvas. She understood that perception was power, wielding narrative like a scepter with more skill than most who wore crowns. To her people, she was many things: Russia's nurturing mother, an enlightened philosopher queen, a fearless warrior empress, a patron of beautiful things. Yet beneath these carefully arranged masks dwelt a woman who had weathered storms of rejection, betrayal, scandal, and rebellion, and emerged standing ever taller. When death finally drew its quiet curtain in 1796, she left behind an empire transformed and a legacy wrapped in questions. Could this enlightened empress have struck harder at serfdom's chains? Did political necessity tarnish her philosophical ideals? Was she truly a reformer at heart, or simply a masterful wielder of power? Yet history, in its wisdom, bestowed upon her a title she never claimed, the Great, not for perfection or kindness or justice alone, but for seizing power's reins and driving her destiny forward in an age when women were expected to remain decorative and silent. She didn't merely wear the crown, she redefined its very meaning, writing new rules in golden letters across time's endless scroll. In the depths of the Chiapas jungle, where time seems to slow and shadows whisper ancient secrets, lies Palenque, a Maya city frozen in eternal slumber. Picture yourself walking through this dreamscape where temples pierce the emerald canopy like stone guardians of forgotten tales. In 1994, as the jungle's humid breath enveloped Temple 13, archaeologist Fanny Lopez Jimenez and her team made a discovery that would entrance the world. Imagine descending into complete darkness, into a chamber untouched by human hands for over a millennium. There, in the heavy silence, they found it. A stone sarcophagus, its secrets sealed away from time itself. As they lifted the ancient lid, something magical happened. A cloud of brilliant red dust rose like a spirit awakening, painting the air with its mysterious glow. This crimson shroud revealed something extraordinary. The delicate skeleton of a woman, her remains cradled in toxic cinnabar powder. Like a sleeping princess in a scarlet bed, she lay surrounded by precious offerings. Jade mask still adorning her skull, necklaces and diadems scattered around her like fallen stars. Every detail spoke of royalty, yet mysteriously not a single glyph revealed her name. Who was this enigmatic noble wrapped in red mystery? A queen, a powerful priestess, perhaps even the wife of the great King Pakal? The archaeologists named her the Red Queen, and like a gentle lullaby, her story echoes through time. Modern science can only tell us she lived during Palenque's golden age, in the 7th century, leaving the rest to our drowsy imagination. Unlike other Maya tombs, hers was a secret sanctuary, deliberately hidden and preserved. This wasn't just a burial, it was a sacred passage. She was meant to be remembered not through words carved in stone, but through the eternal language of ritual and mystery. But it's the red powder that truly captures our sleepy thoughts. Imagine cinnabar, a sacred substance to the Maya, coating everything like a blanket of sunset. This wasn't just any color, it was the shade of life itself, of blood flowing between our world and the divine. The Maya believed this vibrant dust could bridge the gap between life and death. As your eyes grow heavy, picture this, the color red. Sacred as a sunrise, powerful as sacrifice, gentle as new life emerging from death. The Maya saw death not as an ending, but as a doorway to another realm. And so our Red Queen, drifting in her crimson dream, was prepared not just for burial, but for her transformation into something divine. As we too now drift toward our own peaceful dreams, in the depths of ancient ritual, cinnabar whispers a darker secret. It carries death in its crimson heart. Like a sleeping dragon, this sacred powder holds Mercury's poison, known to bring tremors, visions, and eventually eternal rest to those who touch it too often. The Maya, though unaware of its chemical nature, sensed its mystical power. To blanket a royal corpse in this dangerous substance was to mark them as more than mortal. In all of Palank's grand history, only the most divine received this honor. Among them, Pakal the Great, whose mighty pyramid still watches over the jungle, his remains forever embraced by the sacred red dust. Like petals scattered in a temple garden, questions bloom around the Red Queen's identity. Was she Pakal's beloved wife, his powerful mother, or perhaps someone whose authority matched their own? Her resting place speaks volumes, a skull cradled by jaguar fur, itself a symbol of sacred power. Around her, humble bone needles and obsidian blades lie alongside delicate jade figures, each item carefully chosen for her journey beyond. Every object weaves into her story, a tale of divine power wrapped in mystery, a queen prepared to enter the spirit realm adorned in sacrifices' crimson robes. In her eternal slumber, the Red Queen lies surrounded by treasures that gleam like stars in the tomb's darkness. Jade, shell, and obsidian catch phantom light, each piece an offering for her path to Xibalba, the Maya underworld. Her jade necklaces rest heavy and cool against time itself, their surfaces untouched by 13 centuries of darkness. This wasn't mere jewelry. Jade carried the breath of life itself, echoing the green heart of maize fields and jungle canopies, whispering the very essence of divinity. Her status flows through every precious stone adorning her form. Jade embraces her chest, wrists and ears like a final loving touch, speaking of earthly power and heavenly favor. Most haunting is her funerary mask, not gold like Egypt's pharaohs, but a subtle masterpiece of jade mosaic tiles, each piece carefully placed to mirror her mortal features. This wasn't just a covering, it was a key to immortality, preserving her essence for the gods themselves. Scattered like fallen stars around her bones lie ritual tools, delicate bone needles, sharp obsidian blades, shells shaped by sacred hands. Each item hints at her possible roles: priestess, healer, royal mother. One bone pin bears faint markings like a forgotten whisper from centuries past. Near her feet rest sealed ceramic vessels, their contents, perhaps food, drink, or sweet incense, meant to nourish her spirit on its eternal journey. The Maya saw death not as an ending, but as a doorway, each step beyond fraught with challenge and wonder. Her tomb reflects this belief, intimate yet purposeful, each item chosen with spiritual significance rather than mere grandeur. No golden excess or ceremonial chariots here, only carefully selected tools for a soul's ascension. Through these sacred objects we glimpse how the Maya viewed death as transformation, power flowing from one realm to the next. The Red Queen wasn't laid to rest, she was launched into her next great journey. Yet for all this ceremonial splendor, one mystery remains like morning mist: her name. No glyphs mark her sarcophagus, no inscriptions claim her identity. She was clearly someone of immense importance, but who? Scholars studying her tomb believe they've found an answer. She may be Tsakbu Ajol, wife to the great Kinich Janab Pakal, Palank's most renowned ruler. Tsakbu Ajol was far more than a simple queen consort. Born to nobility, she joined Palanka's royal lineage in her youth, bearing 3 sons who would carry power's weight. Her ceremonial role in Pakal's reign spoke of deep spiritual authority. The location of her tomb, mere steps from Pakal's grand resting place in the Temple of Inscriptions, whispers of their eternal bond, royal partners in both life and the great beyond. Like whispers from an ancient tomb, the cinnabar dust tells a compelling tale. In all of Palank's grand burial chambers, only 2 souls were blessed with such an abundance of this sacred red powder. the mighty Pakal, and our mysterious Red Queen. This shared honor speaks volumes, yet the mystery only deepens. Modern science, with its DNA tests, sought answers, but found only more questions. Though the tests revealed no maternal connection to Pakal, they left open the possibility of a marriage bond, for royal unions were forged in power, not blood. In the soft shadows of history, theories bloom like night flowers. Was she Sakuk, the formidable mother who guided Pakal's path to power? Perhaps a revered priestess or royal sister? Yet all evidence gently points to Tsakbu Ajao, a queen whose legacy transcended mere titles. She was mother to kings, spiritual partner to Pakal, her identity preserved not in carved stone, but in the delicate dance of ritual and symbol. Like the crimson dust that embraced her bones, her story flows between reality and legend, a queen remembered in sacred silence. To truly understand our sleeping queen, we must drift into her world, a realm where Maya women wielded influence like subtle moonlight. Here, power moved through family bonds like life-giving water. Royal women were more than silent partners. They were master weavers of diplomacy, keepers of sacred rites, architects of dynasty. Their noble bloodlines were precious as jade, carefully traded to build bridges between kingdoms. Consider Sakuk, whose story flows like a gentle stream through time. When Palanque's throne stood empty, she stepped forward not as a mere caretaker, but as a queen in her own right. Under her guidance, the city breathed and grew, waiting for her son Pakal to come of age. Without her steady hand, history might have written a very different tale. Like stars scattered across the Maya heavens, powerful women illuminated cities from Yaxchilan to Naranjo and Calakmul. Their names and deeds were carved in stone, their images adorned in royal splendor, standing proud beside kings, sometimes even above them. Time and colonial perspectives tried to dim their light, casting them as silent shadows in a male-dominated world. But beneath the jungle's canopy, ancient stones tell a different story, one of subtle power shared, of authority earned through wisdom rather than merely inherited through birth. Like moonlight filtering through temple stones, this discovery casts our Red Queen in an enchanting new light. Though she may not have worn the crown officially, her extraordinary burial, nestled beside mighty Pakal, adorned with sacred treasures, whispers of her profound importance in the royal hierarchy. That jade mask she wore wasn't mere ornamentation, but a powerful symbol of her identity, her authority preserved even in death's embrace. Through her blood flowed the very essence that bound Palanque's dynasty together. In the intricate tapestry of Maya civilization, a queen was far more than her title. She was a guardian of sacred bloodlines, a voice that echoed through sacred ceremonies, a living bridge between the mortal realm and divine powers. Though time may have stolen her name, her presence still resonates through the centuries, never truly silent. Drift deeper now into a tomb that speaks volumes through its sacred architecture. Every stone was placed with purpose, every space infused with Maya cosmology and ritual meaning. This wasn't simply a grave, it was a doorway to eternity itself. Hidden within Temple 13, a modest pyramid in Palanque's sacred heart, her final resting place stands in meaningful proximity to Pakal's grand temple of inscriptions. Like stars in a constellation, these temples were positioned with divine intention, their placement guided by the ancient wisdom of astrology, myth, and royal legacy. Temple 13 may seem humble beside its majestic neighbor, but within its depths lies something extraordinarily intimate. A sealed crypt, untouched by time or thieves, perfectly preserved in its sacred silence. Deep within the temple's heart, accessible only by a narrow staircase that descends like a pathway into dreams, her tomb awaits. This descent feels almost like a ritual journey into the mythical underworld itself. The chamber, stark and solemn, carved from ancient stone and sealed for over 13 centuries, tells no tales through glyphs or murals. But perhaps this very silence speaks volumes. This was a space meant not for mortal eyes, but for the soul's transformation. At the chamber's heart, her limestone sarcophagus rests like a sacred altar, echoing the grandeur of Pakal's own stone coffin nearby. While his tomb lid tells stories of cosmic rebirth through intricate carvings, hers embraces a more subtle power, focusing inward on the essential elements of transformation: body, sacred cinnabar, and pure ritual. Even in this simplicity, architectural whispers reveal deeper meanings, like the tomb's careful alignment from east to west, mirroring the sun's daily journey between life and death. Let your mind drift in this small but powerful space. Feel its deliberate intimacy, a sacred chamber created for someone deeply revered. In Maya belief, temples weren't mere buildings but cosmic tools, bridges spanning earth, heaven, and the mysterious underworld. To rest within such a space was to transcend human limitations. The Red Queen's eternal sanctuary wasn't created as an afterthought, but as a carefully crafted shrine where death itself became a gateway to transformation. Her physical remains rest in ancient stone, her essence preserved in sacred cinnabar, while her legacy lives on through the very architecture surrounding her, a temple that, though wordless, still whispers across time of her lasting importance. Like whispers in an ancient dream, death for the Maya was not an ending, but a mystical doorway. Through this sacred threshold lay Xibalba, the shadowy underworld where souls embarked on their final journey. For the Red Queen, this passage transcended mere spiritual transition. It was a carefully orchestrated dance of power, cosmic significance, and sacred ritual. Picture, if you will, elaborate ceremonies guided by moonlight, each movement and offering precisely chosen to shepherd her spirit through the 9 levels of the underworld. Deep in the realm of Xibalba, where obsidian rivers flow and shadow lords reign, only the most meticulously prepared souls could hope to navigate its trials. The Red Queen's preparation was nothing short of extraordinary, her body lovingly wrapped in blood-red cinnabar, cradled in cool limestone, surrounded by precious offerings that would light her path through the darkness. Among her eternal companions lay bone needles and obsidian blades, not mere tools but sacred keys to power. These implements whispered of self-sacrifice rituals, perhaps echoing ceremonies she once performed in life. Her jade mask, a masterwork of delicate tiles, served as more than mere adornment. It was her eternal face, carefully crafted so the gods themselves would recognize her spirit as she walked their shadowy halls. Around her rested ceramic vessels, their contents long vanished, but their purpose eternal. Perhaps once filled with sweet chocolate, life-giving maize, pure water, or sacred pulque. These weren't simple provisions, but spiritual sustenance for her infinite journey. Nearby lay stingray spines and shell trumpets, cosmic instruments to call upon divine forces, their surfaces worn smooth by ritual use. In the Maya world, death was but a seed planted in sacred soil, waiting to bloom into new life. The Red Queen, draped in cinnabar's crimson embrace and honored with precious offerings, wasn't merely being laid to rest, she was being transformed. As the final stones of her pyramid tomb slid into place, she began her ascension from mortal queen to divine being, her legend only beginning to unfold in the sacred darkness. Like a gentle moonlit path through ancient stones, our journey leads us to two remarkable tombs in Mesoamerica. Here, nestled in sacred silence, lies the magnificent resting place of Kinich Janab Pakal, known simply as Pakal the Great. His eternal sanctuary within the Temple of Inscriptions stands as a masterpiece of Maya artistry and spirituality. But what truly captivates us is the neighboring Temple Thuy, where another remarkable story unfolds, the tomb of the mysterious Red Queen. In the drowsy embrace of Palank's sacred geometry, where every stone whispers cosmic secrets, these two temples stand as eternal companions. Their proximity speaks volumes in the language of stars and sacred numbers. Many scholars, drifting through layers of time, believe they've found her identity in Tsakbu Ajal, Pakal's beloved queen. Though her tomb bears no written words, it mirrors his in profound ways. Both souls cradled in crimson cinnabar, both bodies embraced by pyramid walls, both spirits adorned with precious jade. These parallel ceremonies flow like twin streams into the same sacred ocean. Let your mind float to Pakal's tomb lid, where ancient artists carved his cosmic journey, a king falling through the branches of the world tree, dancing between life and death. The Red Queen's tomb tells a quieter tale, yet one equally profound. If Pakal was the brilliant sun descending into night's mysteries, she was surely the serene moon, following her own celestial dance through star-scattered skies. Together they embodied the eternal dance of opposites, day and night, king and queen, order and mystery. In the gentle wisdom of Maya thought, true power was never meant to stand alone. Like stars that need darkness to shine, rulership required balance, a harmony that echoed from heavenly spheres to earthly courts. The placement of these tombs side by side wasn't mere architecture. It was poetry in stone. Here lies a queen who ruled not from her king's shadow, but from his side, their partnership transcending both throne and tomb to touch eternity. Though time has drawn a veil across her name, the Red Queen of Palank rests not as a forgotten shadow, but as an eternal mystery, her presence growing stronger with each passing age. For 13 centuries, her tomb kept its secrets, and even now, as we drift closer to understanding, she remains beautifully enigmatic. No carved glyphs spell out her story, no stone monuments proclaim her deeds. Yet the profound care in her burial, the richness of her grave goods, and her bones, still embraced by sacred red powder, all whisper of a woman whose power flowed not just from her royal marriage, but from her own deep wellspring of spiritual and political authority. In the hushed chambers of time, the Red Queen's legacy whispers to us like a lullaby from the past. She challenges our modern assumptions, her story unfolding like a dream through ancient Maya corridors. Through the mists of history, we see women not as silent shadows, but as powerful figures who commanded rituals, guided cities, and wove the very fabric of dynasties. While great kings like Pakal cast long shadows across time, the Red Queen's emergence from her crimson-draped tomb reminds us that true power flowed like sacred water through the hands of mothers, queens, priestesses, and visionaries. Her story stretches beyond mere treasures entombed in stone. Like a gentle night breeze, she stirs conversations among those who study the past, archaeologists piecing together fragments of time, historians unraveling ancient mysteries, artists capturing echoes of her reign, and storytellers keeping her memory alive. Each jade bead, every layer of cinnabar dust, each carefully placed stone in her temple whispers a truth. This woman's presence shaped history. Perhaps most enchanting is what remains unknown. Her story floats between certainty and mystery, like stars scattered across an ancient Maya sky. As we drift deeper into her tale, we find her legacy, still breathing, still growing. Wrapped eternally in red, the sacred color of life is blood, and death's transformation, she transcends time itself. Though her jade mask once hid her mortal face, she now gazes at us through the lens of science and wonder, her presence growing stronger with each discovery. Nameless, but never voiceless, mysterious, yet unforgotten, the Red Queen. Earthly reign has transformed into something far more enduring. She rules the realm of our collective imagination, her story sealed in stone, but speaking eternally through time's quiet passage. Let us drift now to another tale, to the birth of Frida Kahlo on a warm July day in 1907. In the drowsy streets of Coyoacán, a village cradled on Mexico City's outskirts, stood the Casa Azul, the blue house. Like a dream caught in color, this home held within its walls the quiet strength and vivid contradictions that would later shape one of art's most captivating spirits. This azure sanctuary would become both fortress and canvas, a place where pain and creativity danced together in eternal embrace. Into this world of color and contrast came Frida, third daughter of an unlikely union. Her father, Guillermo Kahlo, brought the precise eye of a German-Hungarian photographer and a soul that preferred quiet contemplation. Her mother, Matilde Calderón, carried the fire of Spanish blood mingled with indigenous roots, her Catholic devotion as deep as her emotional reserve. From this fusion of opposites, Frida inherited a powerful duality. Her father's thoughtful gaze and artistic sensitivity merged with her mother's unbreakable spirit, creating a soul that would later paint its way into immortality. In the gentle whispers of history, young Frida emerges like a vibrant dream, a child whose imagination knew no bounds. Her mind, ever curious, devoured books like precious treasures, and her questions danced around adults like persistent butterflies. But fate had other plans. At 6, polio crept into her world, leaving her right leg forever changed, thinner, weaker, yet somehow stronger in spirit. Though hidden beneath flowing skirts, this early challenge became the first brushstroke in her portrait of resilience. In those quiet months of recovery, isolated from childhood's usual rhythms, she found solace in her father's gentle guidance as he nurtured both her body and mind through exercise, bicycle rides, and intellectual pursuits. Like a rare flower blooming in unexpected places, young Frida defied the garden path laid out for girls of her era. Instead of dreams of domesticity, she cultivated ambitions of medicine. At 15, she entered the hallowed halls of the National Preparatory School, one of few female students to grace its prestigious corridors. There, her presence was unmistakable, not just for her brilliant mind, but for her revolutionary spirit, her defiant wit, and her uniquely bold style. Among the cachuchas, a group of young intellectual rebels, she found kindred spirits who shared her passion for philosophy, literature, and the intoxicating winds of change. Even then, before destiny's cruel intervention, Frida was painting her existence with bold strokes of authenticity. Her identity, like a complex mural, spread beyond any conventional canvas, rich with unapologetic ideas and fierce independence. In the drowsy streets of Coyoacán, she wasn't merely growing up, she was metamorphosing into something extraordinary. But on that fateful September afternoon in 1925, time itself seemed to hold its breath. As Frida boarded a wooden bus with her boyfriend Alejandro, their laughter and playful arguments drifting like leaves in the autumn air, neither could have known how completely their world was about to shatter. In one devastating moment, metal met metal, and Frida's reality splintered like glass. The collision was merciless. A streetcar's brutal force crushing the bus against an unyielding wall. The impact sent an iron handrail piercing through her young body like a cruel arrow, entering through her hip and emerging through her pelvis. Her spine fractured in 3 places, her right leg shattered like delicate pottery, and her body became a landscape of broken bones, from collarbone to ribs, from dislocated shoulder to pierced abdomen. At just 18, her flesh became a battlefield of pain. In the chaos that followed, a strange beauty emerged, her broken form dusted not with blood, but with scattered gold powder from her burst pouch, as if the universe had decided to gild her suffering. Through endless surgeries and countless days imprisoned in a body cast, she lay suspended between who she had been and who she would become. Her dreams of becoming a doctor slowly dissolved like morning mist, replaced by something else entirely. But in that cocoon of plaster and pain, a metamorphosis began. With brushes from her father, an easel rigged by her mother's loving hands, and a mirror positioned above her bed like a window into her soul, Frida discovered a new language. Her first paintings, born from boredom and blossoming into obsession, were self-portraits, not from vanity, but from necessity. She painted herself because she was her only constant companion in that landscape of pain. What emerged from those first tentative brushstrokes wasn't just art, it was alchemy, transforming agony into beauty, trauma into triumph. The accident had shattered her body, but it had also cracked open a door to a new world of expression, where pain and identity would dance together in surreal, beautiful patterns that would eventually captivate the world. In the gentle silence of her recovery, a remarkable transformation began. Like a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis, the young woman who once dreamed of healing others found herself becoming an artist instead. There, confined to her bed of plaster and steel, each labored breath a reminder of her broken body, Frida Kahlo discovered the power of the brush. What began as simple therapy blossomed into something profound, a visual language that spoke directly from her soul, raw and unfiltered, challenging yet mesmerizing. Her early works, intimate self-portraits painted on small tin and wood panels, drew inspiration from Mexican retablos, those sacred paintings that tell tales of suffering and divine intervention. But Frida transformed this tradition, turning her own body into a sacred space where pain and beauty danced together. "I paint myself," she would say, her voice soft but certain, "because I am so often alone and because I am the subject I know best." In these dreamlike portraits, she painted herself divided, wounded, yet defiantly alive. Like a modern saint, she appeared pierced by nails. Like a broken goddess, she floated in barren landscapes, tethered to a shattered column that echoed her own fractured spine. Yet even in her most haunting works, where she depicted herself weeping, split apart, or stripped bare, her gaze remained steady, watchful, alive with an inner fire. Through her brush, she transformed trauma into poetry, pain into power, creating something both beautiful and unsettling. A mirror of her truth in a world that preferred pretty lies. But Frida wasn't merely telling her story. She was weaving a new kind of artistic tapestry, one that merged Mexican folk art with surrealism, medical precision with mythical symbolism. Her paintings became like dreams caught in color, each canvas a window into a soul that refused to be silenced by suffering. By the time she could walk again, though each step brought pain, she had metamorphosed completely. The aspiring doctor had become something else entirely, an artist whose work would eventually capture the world's imagination. Then came 1928, a year that would change everything. Still healing, still painting, barely 21 years old, Frida encountered Diego Rivera. Like two celestial bodies drawn together by gravity, Their meeting seemed destined. He stood as Mexico's most celebrated painter, 20 years her senior, his presence as massive as his murals, those sweeping, politically charged frescoes that told the story of their beloved Mexico. In a moment that would echo through art history, Frida approached him at the Ministry of Education, where he worked high on his scaffolding. With characteristic directness, she asked the question that burned in her heart. "Do I have talent?" Diego's response, after one penetrating look at her work, came without hesitation. Yes, and not just out of kindness. In her raw, unfiltered voice, he recognized something rare and precious, an artist who could transform rage into beauty, pain into power, and personal tragedy into universal truth. Like moonlight dancing on ancient stones, their relationship unfolded with the intensity of a dream. "I suffered 2 accidents in my life," Frida would whisper in the quiet hours. "One in which a streetcar knocked me down. The other was Diego." Their union in 1929 was like a collision of celestial bodies. Diego, the mighty sun, politically radiant and gravitationally unfaithful. Frida, a fierce comet, blazing her own trail despite walking with a cane. Her parents, watching this cosmic dance, called it a marriage between an elephant and a dove. Their love story wove through time like a tapestry of passion and pain. Though Diego nurtured her artistic flame, his infidelities cast long shadows, reaching their darkest point when he betrayed her with her own sister Cristina. From these depths of heartbreak, Frida emerged transformed, seeking solace in the arms of others, both men and women, including whispered liaisons with Leon Trotsky and Georgia O'Keeffe. When divorce came in 1939, it felt like the end of an era, yet they found their way back to each other a year later, this time with new boundaries. Frida's autonomy, home, finances, and identity remained solely her own. Like ancient stars bound by invisible forces, they continued their dance through time. Diego, though often the source of her deepest wounds, remained her steadfast champion, believing in her revolutionary spirit and her power to reshape the very essence of art. Together they were not a gentle stream, but a thundering river, carving their legend into history's bedrock. Through the fog of the 1930s, Frida followed Diego's path northward to San Francisco, Detroit, and New York, where his murals bloomed on factory walls. In this foreign landscape of steel and capitalism, her heart ached for Mexico. A proud daughter of her homeland, a devoted communist, and a guardian of indigenous traditions, she watched America's opulent excess during the Great Depression with growing unease. Her letters home carried the weight of her disillusionment, her words sharp as obsidian as she critiqued the culture's hollow materialism. While Diego painted his grand visions across vast walls, Frida turned inward, creating intimate revolutions on small canvases of tin and cloth. Her art evolved like a flower blooming in darkness, sharp, surreal, deeply personal. These weren't mere self-portraits, they were survival maps, each brushstroke a heartbeat of defiance. Through the haze of constant pain, failed pregnancy, and countless surgeries, she painted herself raw, fragmented, bleeding, exposed, yet her gaze remained steady, unblinking, eternal. Among these works, Henry Ford Hospital emerged like a fever dream of loss. There she lay, small against white hospital sheets, surrounded by floating symbols of her pain, a tiny, lost life, a slow-moving snail, cold medical instruments, and her own fractured pelvis. The painting wept truth, each detail a tear of raw emotion falling onto canvas. After returning to Mexico, Frida found herself drifting into a dreamlike world of politics and art. Like a moth drawn to flame, she embraced leftist ideologies, opening her home to Leon Trotsky during his exile. Her choice of clothing, the flowing Tehuana dresses, wasn't merely fashion, but whispered stories of cultural resistance and political conviction. Each thread in these traditional garments spoke of her deep connection to her indigenous heritage. In this gentle revolution, her art became her voice. While Diego painted sweeping murals of political upheaval, Frida turned inward, capturing the quiet battles within. Fractured bodies, hearts aflame, and eyes that never wavered from truth. Through illness and exile, she transformed from a painter of personal pain into a soft-spoken rebel with a brush. The late 1930s saw Frida emerge from Diego's shadow like a butterfly from its chrysalis. Her Casa Azul in Coyoacán became a dreamy sanctuary where reality blurred with imagination. Picture yourself walking through rooms painted in drowsy cobalt blue, past sun-warmed yellow trim, where ancient Aztec statues kept silent vigil in gardens where monkeys and parrots drifted like living decorations. Here, surrounded by pre-Columbian artifacts, folk art, and revolutionary literature, Frida created her own world, painting to the lullaby of distant mariachi and the sweet smoke of copal incense. In this peaceful era, her art bloomed like night flowers. The two Fridas emerged from her canvas like a fever dream. One self in European attire with a bleeding heart, the other wrapped in indigenous dignity, strong and serene. Each brushstroke told stories of love, loss, and heritage, painting lullabies of identity. When Paris called in 1939, even giants like Picasso and Kandinsky found themselves enchanted by her unique vision. Yet when André Breton tried to claim her for the surrealists, she softly declined. They thought I was a surrealist, but I wasn't. I never painted dreams. I painted my own reality. Her canvases whispered of a Mexico few had seen, not postcard pretty, but alive with symbols, dreamlike skeletons, hovering hummingbirds, hearts pierced by thorns and blood-red corn. But as her artistic voice grew stronger, her body began its quiet rebellion. Through endless surgeries and waves of infection, she painted on, propped up in bed like a wounded warrior, her spirit refusing to surrender. She had returned to Mexico not to rest, but to weave her pain into beauty through art and unwavering self-expression. As time drifted into the 1940s, her physical struggles deepened like shadows at dusk. Her spine crumbled slowly, her right leg became a constant source of torment, and she endured more than 30 surgeries, each more demanding than the last. Sometimes months would pass with her body bound in plaster casts or stretched by medical devices like a butterfly pinned in place. Yet through it all, her brush never stilled, dancing across canvas after canvas in defiance of the darkness. Like a soothing melody, each brushstroke during these twilight years became both a lullaby and a gentle rebellion. Her paintings, much like dreams that visit us in the depths of night, grew more introspective. Pain, her constant companion, whispered through her art with haunting clarity. In The Broken Column, she painted herself with the vulnerability of midnight confessions, her form split like shadows at dusk, her spine replaced by a column that spoke of ancient ruins and modern suffering. Yet her gaze, like stars in a dark sky, remained steady and serene. Her political spirit, too, flowed like a quiet river. Through drowsy afternoons, she attended Communist Party meetings, her wheelchair moving through crowds like a ship through gentle waves. Even as her body whispered protests, her spirit sang revolution through letters and demonstrations. Picture, if you will, the dreamy scene of her first Mexican solo exhibition in 1953. Against doctors' wishes, she arrived like a sleeping beauty on her hospital bed, carried by an ambulance through streets bathed in golden light. There she lay, adorned in traditional dress, like a painting come to life, greeting guests with the warmth of sunset and eyes that sparkled like evening stars. Her final works floated between reality and dreams. Marxism Will Give Health to the Sick emerged like a fever dream, while her last painting, Watermelons, carrying the whispered message, Viva la vida, spoke of life's sweet persistence. Even as sleep eternal approached, her art remained a gentle defiance, each piece a lullaby of revolution. When she drifted into her final sleep at La Casa Azul on July 13, 1954, aged 47, it was as if a shooting star had completed its arc across the night sky. Just days before, despite her failing body, she had attended one last protest, her raised fist a constellation against injustice. Her last diary entry reads like a bedtime prayer. I hope the exit is joyful, and I hope never to return. They laid her to rest at the Palacio de Bellas Artes, her body draped in revolutionary red, as if tucked in for an eternal dream. Diego Rivera, like a moon bereft of its sun, mourned deeply. Yet something magical happened in the years that followed. Frida's spirit refused to fade into darkness. Her legacy grew like stars appearing one by one in the evening sky. Through the drowsy decades of the 70s and 80s, she emerged as more than an artist. She became a dream of resistance, of beauty born from pain, of Mexican pride blooming like night flowers. Even in eternal rest, she stepped from Diego's shadow into her own moonlight. Her face became an icon, her story a bedtime tale of courage. Today, her image drifts through our world like a shared dream, on walls, in shops, in hearts. Frida's truth was as simple as a lullaby. She embraced what made her different. In a world asking for conformity, she offered authenticity as pure as starlight. Her disability, her fluid identity, her politics, her culture, all became brushstrokes in a masterpiece that transcends time, like stories whispered in the dark. Like whispers from the past, Frida's legacy floats through time, a gentle lullaby of revolution. She's transformed into something beyond an artist, a dreamy beacon of defiance, feminism, and cultural pride. For those seeking acceptance, she's a soft-spoken bisexual icon who dared to live authentically when society demanded shadows. For women drifting towards sleep, she's a moonlit reminder that strength blooms without permission. For artists carrying burdens, she shows how suffering can paint masterpieces. And for Mexico, she remains their beloved daughter, wild as sunset, deep as folklore, eternal as stars. Her paintings, once dismissed like forgotten dreams, now rest among art's most treasured visions. Works like The Two Fridas, Self-Portrait with Thorn Necklace and Hummingbird, and The Broken Column, float in galleries like midnight revelations, touching souls who understand that pain can birth beauty. From society's edges, she created her own center, like a garden blooming in moonlight. She was a tapestry of gentle contradictions, a communist in golden threads, a wounded heart that loved anew, a broken vessel holding infinite light. Through nights of pain and days of challenge, she painted not just with pigments, but with quiet truth. Frida never sought to become a symbol. She simply whispered her story honestly. In doing so, she became a lullaby for countless others who had never before seen their reflection in art's mirror. Now, as sleep approaches, when we glimpse her face, we see courage floating like starlight. We see colors dancing in dreams. We see resistance peaceful as dawn. We see Frida, not sleeping but forever awake in our collective consciousness.